that shows you that if you keep it simple, it often works. So I just watched the ball till the end. And reverse swing and pace in the air never bothered me because my technique was such that I had a short backlift and I played the ball late, which you need to do, the reverse swing. So guys who have a big backlift and love to take a stride forward, they struggle a little more. So I had no issues.
As a cricket fan and a broadcaster, I'm a massive fan of this man. Sanjay Manjrekar, wonderful to see you. Most important question, are the family and you safe and healthy?
Absolutely, yeah. And I've had my COVID test done about 5 or 6 times because of my work with Sony Television. So, I keep sort of getting an update on my COVID health.
The SG ball versus Duke. I mean, lot has been said as we've come off the back of the first test in Chennai, going into the second. Ashwin and Virat went public with this, saying they've never seen a ball in poorer condition. This coming off at the seams. Of course, the manufacturers say it's because of the hardness of the pitch. Ashwin said, "quote unquote," bizarre. I want to
Mm.
understand where you stand as far as the cricket ball is concerned. Obviously, having played so much cricket, the SG versus Duke.
Yes, they're absolutely right because I couldn't believe when I saw the seam on television. I was watching the game on television, and these days the coverage is so good that we can actually see the seam of the ball. In our times, we couldn't identify who was playing, and we just assumed from the style that a certain player was playing. But yes, it was surprising to see, and SG Test has been the Indian ball for years now, and it's used to Indian pitches. So this is what I would call a very, very poor batch of SJ Test because we've seen pitches like this before, but I've never seen the SJ Test ball become the way it had in this Chennai Test.
Yeah, also let's come to the no balls being bowled. I mean, you see, one view is you've taken it out of the hands of the field umpires. But to see a guy like Ashwin, who for 74 tests has not bowled any no balls, and all of a sudden he's being bowled no ball. Shabaz Nadeem, of course, is just unbelievable. The number of no balls he used to bowl. Is it also a mindset of the on-field umpires, which led to less no balls being called earlier, saying, "Boss, he's a spinner, he's not going to overstep," so they took it easy. So, how, the fact that these no balls have gone up so much for spinners.
Absolutely, that could be one of the reasons. And the other thing is also that the guy who's up there looking at that line is going very, very stringent on it. Because, when Ashwin goes over a millimeter from that, bowling crease, it's called a no ball because he has to do it because he sees the evidence. So he calls it a no ball. On field umpires, no way is going to give that as a no ball. So, yes, a lot of those no balls would have been missed by the on field umpires. And I take a little more of a I look at the larger picture. The no ball came in so that it prevented fast bowlers from going down halfway down the pitch and hitting the batsman. So Ashwin a millimeter forward is not going to trouble any batsman, or there is no risk of physical injury to the batsman. So I have no problem with on-field umpire missing the odd no ball. But we live in an era where everything is being seen on television and then everything gets hyped up, exaggerated. So obviously the administrators react to that. And now that it's in charge of the guy who has to look at that line, he has no choice but to call every foot that goes a millimeter over a no ball. But having said that, the English bowlers didn't bowl too many. So it's a problem that the Indian coaching staff have to look to address. And it starts by, being very, very serious about it in the nets.
So Virat has also said the backup spinners, which is so obvious, it's just Washington and Nadeem, let the team down in that aspect. I mean, the argument still remains that Kuldeep also spins the ball in the same direction as Ashwin and Washington. Nadeem, would you term him as a disappointment in this particular test? What are our options before we go into Chennai on Saturday again? Are you going to, bring back Kuldeep? It's a question hundreds must have asked you, millions even, but I have to ask you.
See, the thing is, Ashwin bowled as well as he could. And Shahbaz Nadeem to me was a disappointment. In fact, I've had Shahbaz Nadeem in my team before Akshar Patel, purely because this guy has taken a lot of wickets at the first class level and seems ideally suited to bowl on a typical Indian turner. But he's also afflicted by this new thing that, I'm going to reveal in Hindustan Times tomorrow. So I don't mind actually revealing it here as well. I'm talking about strength and fitness for the spinners too. Indian cricket, we've seen batsmen become strong. They're running between the wicket is excellent. And that's all down to their improved fitness levels. The fielding standards also have generally improved. I think it's time that the Indian spinners also get fitter and stronger. Because had that been the case, I think India would have fared a lot better in Chennai. Yeah, Shahbaz Nadeem also seemed to have come from that same sort of background of an Indian spinner who's got wickets on Indian pitches by just using the fingers and the arms. Never needed to really become a strong cricketer or a strong physically kind of a physically strong spinner. So Shahbaz Nadeem was a disappointment purely because he wasn't getting much out of the pitch, and also I think in the first innings he was a bit tense. There was no control. The problem with Kuldeep Yadav, Rishi, is that he's also got this weakness of being slow in the air and slow off the pitch. Now, slow in the air is nice. It's great to be slow in the air, but you've got to be quick off the pitch. On this Chennai slow turner, he would have also had his work cut out, really.
We all love Ajinkya. We love his temperament, and look how he captained the side. But those scores, which you have also made public, is something that we need to look at. After that 100 in Australia, are you still going to back him? I mean, what are the other options for our middle order?
See, batting options always there for India. And I don't think the time has yet come to sack Ajinkya Rahane and get somebody else in, but it's been something that I have noticed with Ajinkya Rahane for the last 3-4 years, where, a batsman gets 100 and then everything sort of falls into place. You're out of form, you get 100, and the next match you carry that confidence into the next game, and the batsman is back in form. That's what we say about any batsman. That's the pattern of any decent player. Ajinkya Rahane is an enigma. It seems like 100 doesn't really change him as a batsman because this has happened very often in the past as well. If you look at his string of scores, there's been one inning that you would think, Ajinkya Rahane, wow, looks as good as he has done before. And now you'll see Ajinkya Rahane at his best, and what you get later is Ajinkya Rahane at his worst. So now he got that 100 in Melbourne, 27 not out in the second inning. You would think, two match-winning innings. Um, Ajinkya Rahane will walk out in the next game as the king of Australia. Going out as if the world he was commanding the situation there. Wasn't the case, and there've been six low scores after that 100. So that is something that Ajinkya Rahane himself must look at, and the team management and the selectors too, as to what happens. Rishi, forgive me for the slightly long answer, is that if you are not able to carry your form, you don't really help the team as much as you can. Now, Joe Root, he's carrying his form right from Sri Lanka to India, and not just getting hundreds, he's getting 200. So he's making for up for all those guys who are trying to get into form. So if you've got a guy who's got 100 and is not able to carry his form, then he's getting enough runs just to keep his place in the side. But the team doesn't really benefit from that.
Logical next question. You've segued into it. How does one
Hmm.
get Joe Root out? Do you have any ideas? Some people say, get that reverse swing going, get him to falter when he sweeps. Your ideas.
See, if he's going to play an attacking shot to a good ball, then there's always a chance the bowler will get him out. It's something that is beyond the control of a fielding team or a bowler. So you keep doing that. If he plays that kind of a shot, gets out good. But if I tweeted that as well. The thing is, I watch so much cricket that I seem to have answers for everything.
That's lovely. That's lovely,
You're a
really.
Shubman Gill, for example, is a superb player, but he's got this backward trigger movement, and when the ball is pitched up, they're slightly late. These guys who have a backward trigger movement, slightly late on the ball that is pitched up. All great batsmen had that little vulnerability at the start of the inning. Hashim Amla was the same. So very often he would get dropped in the slip and get a double 100. Steve Waugh had the same issue. So Joe Root, I think that is where you need to be at the start of his inning. Have every ball outside the off, some driving length, whether it's a spinner or a seam bowler, and just hope for the best.
Jimmy Anderson, my oh my, that display of reverse swing, especially that one over where he got Shubman as well as Rahane. It's unbelievable. He's 38. Look at that, the washboard abs. Just a little bit on this marvel.
See, England are also using him very well. So Jimmy Anderson these days, when he's bowling for England in Test matches, is always a fresh bowler. the age is a thing. Age is a number. If you haven't played as much cricket, then you're not that tired of an old man. It depends on how much work you've done in your life. For example, Tendulkar at the age of 16, people thought, such a raw, young batsman, a kid. But this guy had played as much cricket as a 23-year-old would have done at his age. So he was a hardened, proper seasoned batsman. So well done to England for using Jimmy Anderson in that fashion. The thing with experienced bowlers is they know where the wickets lie on certain kind of pitches. And very smart move from England when they got him when the ball was slightly reverse swinging. Plus the ball was also not very old. The seam was not in tatters. So it responded more for Jimmy Anderson. And then comes the execution part. And it was brilliant. The swing and the length, the length. It's something that I've discovered after I've quit the game and I've watched it, that the length a bowler bows is the most crucial aspect of bowling. And for a batsman, judging the length more than the line, length first is the key. So those were great lengths that were slightly misjudged by both Gill and Ajinkya Rahane, and the class of Jimmy Anderson just came through.
England's rotation policy, Sanjay. I mean, Archer and Stokes didn't play in Sri Lanka. Now Butler's going home. Wokes hasn't played any cricket. Uh, and technically, Butler's only going to go back to extreme lockdown because they have really locked down the country. Uh, from an India perspective, can we do something like that? Considering Bumrah and Virat are perhaps the only two guys who play all formats of the game, and I'm worried for Bumrah. For one, you see him bowling like this, and we're like, can he be rested for the ODIs? Do we have more pace bowling options? I know that Shami and Yadav are out. So that rotation policy, and can it apply to India?
It can apply to India, especially when it comes to the seam bowlers. And I'm hearing some murmurs about Bumrah getting rested, but Bumrah rested in the final test in Australia as well. So he's had that time off, but he did a lot of work in this test match because he wasn't just bowling seam, he was bowling a lot of Yorkers. And Yorkers take a lot out of a fast bowler. And this is something that I've uh, come to know from one of the greatest fast bowlers, Wasim Akram, where he hated having to bowl a Yorker because it just took a lot out of him, more than a bouncer. So if Bumrah is rested, India, thankfully Indian cricket has quality depth in seam bowling. So if Bumrah is rested, I don't think India will be suddenly weakened as a bowling unit because there is that exciting option of having a Mohammad Siraj, who in conditions like this would actually be a better option than somebody like an Ishant Sharma, who played in the first test. So there is Shardul Thakur, who has bowled a lot on these kind of pitches at the Ranji level. So I don't think India will be very weakened if Bumrah doesn't play. And if they rest him, I don't think it's such a bad idea.
Let's talk about Rishabh because now the debate over, should Saha play or him play has gotten out of the door after the
Yeah.
Gabba test. Even though Saha is a better wicketkeeper, we all acknowledge that. But there's another discussion about can he play responsibly? Either you turn around like what Sunny Gavaskar says that we let Krish Shrikant be. We said this iska kuch nahi ho sakta hai. Let Krish Shrikant just be and play. When he plays, he gets a big one. Otherwise, he'll let you down. Uh, are they going to adopt that attitude, a La Krish Shrikant playing days attitude to Rishabh?
Let's face one. I mean, understand one thing, that Rishabh Pant is slightly in a different league when it comes to being a test batsman.
Yeah.
Shrikant was more a limited overs, game changer in test matches. He wasn't that important to the batting side, Indian batting side, like Rishabh Pant is now. Rishabh Pant is a great, great subject for me. He's got me to unlearn a lot of things. Washington Sundar as well, becoming a test player from the T20 route, is also getting all of us, grown up and having certain principles of game when it comes to analysis, selection, everything we've got to unlearn. So Rishabh Pant, who has been around for 3, 4 years, and I've had different views about him through those 3, 4 years. And finally, what I'm looking at with Rishabh Pant is not the way he bats, but how much he gets in the end. And I want to see a reasonable amount of consistency as a batsman, whether he starts off playing a falling sweep, ball number one, it doesn't matter. And when I look at his numbers of late and the short career that he's had, the last time I looked at his numbers, they were very interesting, where he had just 4 good innings of 290s and 200s, and rest were all failures. 18 failures, 4 good innings. But since then, something's changed. There is a method to his madness, and he's become quite consistent. And anybody who can win your test match like he did in Brisbane, There's got to be some kind of an X factor attached to his batting. His keeping, I'm not very optimistic about his long term future as keeper. He might surprise all of us. But Rishabh Pant, let him play the way he wants. I think he takes a lot of risk to begin with and then slightly tones down. It's his way of getting in, which is completely different from the old adage of batting. So, Rishabh Pant, exciting topic in the game currently. There's something special about him. And again, there were contributions that he made in the first innings of this test match and the last 5 or 6 innings. Poor fellow hasn't got 100, but he's got an 80 and got a couple of 90s. Doing well.
You think in this series, I mean, let's not think as far as the pink ball test. We'll come back and make it 1-1 at Chepauk now that we're going into another one.
See, my motto, the last 1 or 2 years, Test cricket has changed drastically. uh, where we don't have one great team like the West Indies in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, and the Australians after that, where you could predict a result. Look at India. India is a good team, but it was all out 36. Recently 36 all out, which is the lowest score for India since they started playing Test cricket, which is a massive sort of occurrence. 36 all out. Then they go on to win the next test match by an innings and some, runs, and then go on to win the series. So here's a team coming back. England have won the first test. That's why I made no prediction before a series, because I love making predictions based on cricketing logic. But the cricketing logic is now going out of the window a lot of times. I mean, look at West Indies.
Yep.
The win that they had recently. Sri Lanka beating South Africa in South Africa when Kushal Perera played that kind of an inning. So the game is changing in the last 2 3 years, which is exciting for Test cricket as a whole. So that's why the result could be India beating England in the next test. It could also be England beating India. It could also be India winning the next three test matches. Who knows? And that is what is, it's a nice dose of life for test match cricket, that there is so much unpredictability now.
I want to talk about your career highlights. I mean, my father's 77, and when he talks of Vijay Majrekar, there's almost a reverence, to any cricket lover of that era. Legend has it that you never saw your dad bat. I mean, was there a lot of pressure when Sanjay Manjrekar first came on, saying, he's the great man's son? And how did you deal with that? Did you deal it with the nonchalance of youth, or did it actually pressurize you?
Uh, I didn't see my father bat at a decent level. I may have gone seen some of his club matches, but I was never interested in watching cricket. I never watched cricket or listened to commentary. I liked playing cricket. So that is what I did. Even when he was playing on the ground, I was playing, in some room or behind the pavilion, getting somebody to bowl to me. And then my father would, in the evening when we were going back home, he would say, "Did you see me play that particular shot?" And I said, "Yeah, I loved it very much." Didn't watch a single ball that he played. But he retired in 65, and I was born after he
Yeah.
retired. So there wasn't that much pressure. I enjoyed the attention that I got as Vijay Mandarikar's son, because then, when there was a selection trial and there were hundreds of boys there, I was singled out as, this is Vijay Mandarikar's son. But then the other side immediately sort of kicked in, saying, he's not as good as his father. So it eventually evened out. But I think more advantages for just getting that attention rather than, saying that, I suffered because I was Vijay Mandarikar's son. No such case with me.
That 108 at Bridgetown, Barbados, it's a long way away, Sanjay, April of 1989. But the fact that Courtney Walsh, Ian Bishop, the late and great Malcolm Marshall, and Curtly Ambrose was streaming down. Of course, the Windies won by 8 wickets, but you made a valiant 108. Your most significant memories of that one?
See, I'm proud of that effort because that was my second test that I got to bat in. There was a test match earlier, which was a draw, and it rained in that test match. So the test match before that, where I made my debut, I was hit in the eye and I retired hurt in the second innings. And a facial injury can be a very psychological injury. It has destroyed the careers of a lot of batsmen.
Sorry
In
to interrupt.
those
Was it
times,
Benjamin? Was it Benjamin who hit you?
Winston Benjamin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Winston Benjamin. So, these kind of injuries would have a psychological long term effect on batsmen. And in that time, before the helmets had arrived, being wary of the cricket ball. and injuries were very common, and as a result the fast bowlers thrived because there was a certain amount of fear that batsmen had, so they had to conquer that first and then the other aspects of their bowling. So I was proud that after that injury, in the very next test match, I went into their own backyard and I got 100. So that was like me feeling on top of the world.
There's so much about that Pakistan tour of 1989. I could delve into the 50s, which are equally important. It's not the numbers so much, but I'm going to stay with the hundreds. I mean, you are easily the resident expert on reverse bowling, reverse swing,
Yeah.
because there's Wasim Wakar. Bowling at you with Imran. He was still around. And of
Mm,
course, Abdul Qadir in the spin department. And 13 not out in Karachi, November of 1989. And then you followed that up, another drawn game with Imran
mm,
Wasim and Abdul, and you batted for 9.5 hours with a 218 in Lahore. So
mm.
just your Karachi innings, your Lahore innings.
Uh, See, the interesting thing is when you're young and this is your first sort of exposure at the highest level. Now, reverse swing and how it happened. One side is shiny and the other rough and all. I had no idea about anything of that. That shows you that if you keep it simple, it often works. So I just watched the ball till the end. And reverse swing and pace in the air never bothered me because my technique was such that I had a short backlift and I played the ball late, which you need to do the reverse swing. So guys who have a big backlift and love to take a stride forward, they struggle a little more. So I had no issues. Pakistan, that whole series for me is like I've got a just blurry memories of it because when you're playing well, it's almost like you're in autopilot mode.
The
Everything
zone,
just
like they call
happens.
it.
Yeah, and that is what happened to me right through the series. So particular moments and particular spares, I have no memory, but it is an example of a performer just performing at his best without really thinking too much and not caring about it too much. Went out there, did the job like Kishore Kumar rendered, I guess, all his song that he went into the studio, just sang a song in 7 minutes. And 30, 40 years later, we're still swooning over those kind of, performances. So it was just an autopilot kind of batsmanship for me through the
No,
series.
no, but I have to commend you. I mean, everybody talks about Pujara spending these hours at the crease. I mean, you spent up to 11 hours, 9.5 hours. You just did it. So, in that aspect, I know former cricketers talk about, oh, we didn't work that much on our fitness, but either you were inherently fit, it was the genes, or you worked at it. I don't know. Tell me.
See, the thing was when we were growing up, this is what we modeled ourselves on. So the big, goal was to bat like Sunil Gavaskar or a Javed Miandad. And in Mumbai, there is this thing about, I mean, it's very famous that if you get 30 and you get out, the selector or the coach would be very unhappy. If you got 5 zeros and then you got a 100 or a 200, so that is the player that they liked. So they didn't like anybody who got out in the 30s. So it was drilled into our heads that you've got to get big hundreds. So that is what I was conditioned to do. So getting those hundreds at that level wasn't such a big deal physically. I just had that kind of attitude and perhaps the body to keep playing those kind of innings. Fortunately, the hours may be quite long there, but I also got runs pretty quickly during those innings, so that also helped. The one innings that I get a lot of, I get needled and teased, and people try to. So there's a lot of banter around the innings that I played against Zimbabwe, where it was another marathon effort at a very, very slow strike rate. And Ian Chappell keeps teasing me about that inning. He reads out the bowling attack and says, against these bowlers, so many hours to get 100. What were you doing? I said, it was a match saving innings, Ian, and I'm very proud of it. And he keeps saying, but Edo Brandes, strike course, and he kept taking these names that not too many people have heard of. But yeah, that was more a Pujara like effort in Karachi and in Lahore. It was just one of the many test innings that batsmen of our generation played.
When I was a kid, I used to watch these games at the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in Delhi with the track and field track around. And I used to
Yeah,
find
yeah,
it very peculiar
yeah.
that, you're playing on the patch of green in the middle. And you got 100 there, 105 against South Africa in New Delhi. Of course, a good game, even though India, South Africa won that particular game. Good game for the Indian batsmen. I mean, I think Ravi Shastri got 100, Shrikant got a 50, you got 105. So anything you remember about that one?
See, don't just say you got 100. Say I got 180 balls.
Yes, of course, yes. Yes, yes, you
So
did. It's quite remarkable.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the other day somebody was trying tweeted to me saying that Pujara and Pant batting together, or when you have Akash Chopra and Virendra Sehwag. Another example is Sanjay Manjrekar and Mohammad Azharuddin. I think that's a bad example, because I was a man of the series in one day cricket, 2 or 3 times in my career. So I'm not quite like the Pujaras or the Akash Chopra, just trying to sort of make my case there. So yes, if needed, I could bat like that, but I was obviously more a defensive player, to be fair. And I had the odd series where I scored quickly, and if the team needed it for the I was able to do it, but I was not like a Tendulkar or a Virendra Sehwag that I could win a game on my own just by my sheer attacking stroke play.
And when I said 11 hours, I meant that semi-final 1991 against Hyderabad in Ranji, 377. And
Mm.
11 hours at the crease with 5 sixes also. And these were the glory days of Mumbai cricket, wasn't it? I mean, Sachin Tendulkar, Vinod Kamli, Dilip Vengsarkar, Sanjay Manjrekar in the middle order. That must be a fabulous memory.
Yes, Sanjay Manjrekar is the captain as well of the Mumbai Ranji team, and it was amazing how Mumbai cricket thought at the time, because when you look at that whole lineup, Dilip Vengsarkar is playing under me, and I'm the captain. Ravi Shastri has played under me. So, they identified a future kind of captain who would spend more time with the Mumbai team, and that's how, the knowledge and the baton got passed. 11 hours, it was a semi-final game, so it was not one of those random Ranji games also. So, proud of that innings only because of the weather conditions. It was, I think, summer time, and the old Wankhede Stadium was the hottest place in Mumbai city, you know, in April, May. And to have batted that long in that heat. So it was, I was just, proud of myself that I was able to survive that long in that kind of heat. The bowling quality wasn't the greatest. They had two Indian spinners, though, in Venkatapati Raju and Arshad Ayub. But I remember from that game just feeling very, very tired after that particular innings.
You've spoken about this particular innings in print, but not on this platform. I'd like your views. You come down at number 7, 1994 against the West Indies, the first test in Mumbai, and you hit a 66, and that's an innings of great pride for you. And please explain.
Yeah, that was my comeback test match. I had lost my place in the side, but I always knew that I would come back. And I came back in a tough test match against the West Indies. And I was batting down the order. I don't know what I was doing at number 6, number 7. I thought I was batting number 6. Maybe there was a night watchman the day before or whatever. But I've got two 50s in that test match. And they're ranked as, important 50s that helped India win the test. But that is where I realized that I fell short of the great batsmen who make comeback of the kind that I made, because any other exceptional batsman, better batsman than me, would have converted those two 50s into 200s. Because I remember Sunil Gavaskar meeting me after that 66, and the way I got out, and he said, missed an opportunity, because these are guys who wouldn't let go of such opportunities. You're set, you've got the opposition on the mat. That's the time to make it count. And comebacks, when you've been dropped once before, you just have to get even more runs to convince the guys who dropped you that you're good enough to come back. The first time, you get a little bit of understanding, and there is certain amount of leniency. And that was my big sort of shortcoming on my comeback trail, that none of the 50s, 60s I converted into big hundreds.
Yeah, but you've done Indian cricket great service both as a player as well as a broadcaster. Last couple of questions. We know you're a great singer, but we play English music. What's on your phone in terms of English music, or any artists you heard when you were in college, or when you were in your playing days, or even now? What kind of music?
I have a strange taste in the sense that I don't watch too many Hindi films, but I only listen to Hindi songs. I can't understand, and I just can't connect with English music, but there's still something, music that I listen to. I'm a big fan of Amy Winehouse,
Ah,
because
she's
when I
fantastic.
listen to her, I think, wow, that's some great singing, and the obvious, legendary singers. But me talking about English music would not be correct, because I'm a novice at that. I'm not an expert at all. Hindi songs, yes.
Your favorite travel destination? Where do you like to go and just chill?
Earlier, it used to be Europe, but I've seen too much of it. So now I think I'm not, I mean, I've got enough places within India to just chill and relax, but I've reached a stage in my life where I want to discover new things. So on the bucket list, as they say, is South America. And I want to either go to Antarctica or the Arctic.
What kind of food is your favorite food? Do you like Indian cuisine? Do you like Chinese? Or do you like continental?
I'm a foodie. I live to eat. So the big events in my day are, the meal times. So every meal is an event. I like all kinds, but what gets me really excited is a typical sort of Muslim non-vegetarian red meat stuff. Gets me excited. I don't overindulge in it. It's something that I love, and I love British food as well. So those are the two favorites, and the steamed variety of the Chinese Oriental cuisine I love.
Sanjay Manjrekar, you're a kind man. I remain a fan. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you,
time, your patience, your energy, and
thank you,
hope to see you soon.
thank
Take
you,
care.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.